Welcome. 2 days ago it was 60, now it's snowing. Welcome to Utah. Welcome to our board study session tonight. We appreciate you being here. Board, if you look in your packets, there's a piece of paper that looks like this for our high school graduations coming up in May.
I have Roy Hyde.
If any of you would like,
No, I already called.
I have Roy Hyde.
I already called it.
there will be an arm wrestle afterwards. If any of you would like to speak at one of them, let us know so Pam can get.
I'm going to stand in for Jan on the arm wrestle.
She's done it the last 5 years.
Because you didn't want to.
I wasn't there.
We'll let you take that
John.
and work that. Remind you of the USBA Day on the Hill on the Thursday, the 22nd of February. There's been some emails and texts going around about that. Remind you of our special board study session that will happen on Friday, the 1st of March from 11 until 2 o'clock here, or probably in the superintendent's office. And I think Bruce is excused.
Thank you.
You don't want to take us all with you, do you?
You're welcome to come.
Yeah. And is there anything anybody needs to bring up to the board having to do with some of your committee assignments, meetings that you've been to that we need to leave before the board? Okay, wonderful. Superintendent, go ahead.
Thank you, President. We thought we'd start out tonight with just a quick overview of some things going on down at the legislature. There's been two high-profile bills, as you know, that have passed. They were kind of fast-tracked through the process. And we thought that we would cover one of them tonight. It's HB 257, the sex-based designation for privacy, anti-bullying, and women's opportunities. It's Representative Kara Birkeland's bill. And we wanted to make sure that the board understood the processes we have in place already around this bill. And so I've asked Jamie Ellis and our Heidi Alder, our legal counsel, to kind of walk us through the provisions on that. And then we can answer any questions and have a discussion if needs be. There's another high-profile bill that will go into effect on July 1st. It's the DEI, it's known as the DEI bill, HB 261. We will cover that in March's board meeting. We thought it would be helpful if we waited a bit because we're still waiting for some clarification around some of the provisions on that one. But let's walk through HB 257, and if you have any questions, this would be the time to ask them, okay? Thanks, you two.
Good evening, board. Hold on, let's speak to this one.
There we go.
Is that on? Okay. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to share a bit of information. This is a bill that was effective immediately upon the governor signing, which is not common. And so we wanted to make sure that you were aware of what is now currently in effect as state law. We are condensing a lengthy bill into just a few slides because we don't need to go through everything. And much of the bill actually applies to government facilities that are open to the general public, which schools are not. Schools are not open to the general public. People can't come in off the street and use our facilities. When we are having an event, then they would fall into that category, but most of the bill applies to other governmental entities. There's a section about athletics in Title IX, and the bill articulates a couple philosophical statements. And that is to preserve individual privacy and competitive opportunity. That's the underlying principles of the bill. And the section that talks about athletics in Title IX just states to preserve the individual privacy and competitive opportunity. Students of one sex are not entitled to and may not access, use, or benefit from an athletic facility, program, or event that is designated for the opposite sex. Following that statement, the bill reiterates Title IX's provisions of equivalence between male and female athletics, which prohibit, and this is federal law that's been in place for decades now, but prohibits a sex-designated facility, program, or event of higher quality for one sex over another. And, in program or event to be of lesser quality for the opposite sex. The bill reiterates federal law also in stating that schools can't give males or females preferred or more advantageous scheduling of facilities, programs, or events. Also, the bill reiterates Title IX in saying that schools can't give males or females with more opportunities than the opposite sex, in excess of 10%. That's all part of federal law that's been in place for decades. The new pieces that isn't part of federal law adds a couple of different bullet points. One, LEA schools are prohibited from requiring males or females to participate in or compete against the opposite sex. They can't be forced to. Also, schools are prohibited from requiring or authorizing males or females to use sex-designated facilities in the presence of the opposite sex. So those are two statements that are separate from Title IX regulations and are now in state law. The other part of the bill that applies to schools is a section that covers facilities in general and privacy spaces within those facilities. Privacy spaces is defined as a restroom or changing room, and the underlying philosophical statement with regard to privacy spaces is articulated in the bill as follows. To preserve the individual privacy of male and female students, a student may only access a sex-designated privacy space if the student's sex corresponds with the sex designation of the privacy space. The bill also requires that we put into place a privacy plan. Oh, this is going out. Just take it out. Okay. Whenever a student requests to use a privacy space other than the sex-designated privacy space for the student's sex because of the student's gender identity or fear of bullying. If we have a biologically female student requesting to use a male restroom because of gender identity or for fear of bullying or vice versa, the bill requires the school district to work with the parent, the legal guardian, rather, to develop a privacy plan that provides the student with reasonable access to a unisex or a single occupant facility or a faculty or staff restroom. And if that's not available, if the school doesn't have a unisex or a single occupant facility or a faculty staff bathroom, then the bill allows the school district to provide access to the opposite sex facility by staggering schedules or through some other alternative means to allow the student to enter privately when nobody else is in the facility. All of our schools have either a unisex, a single occupant, or a faculty staff restroom that students can use. Do you want to jump in? Amy's going to answer questions. Yeah, and feel free to interrupt me if you have questions throughout. The bill states that a school district or an LEA satisfies its duties under this law, is complying with the law, if it gives notice to students of the provisions of this section. We just have to let students know what the provisions of the section are. Take administrative action to address violations that are known to the administrators and promote compliance. And then to develop a privacy plan that we just talked about with parents and students as addressed in the previous slide. Finally, the bill talks about our current building facilities and new construction, and states that to preserve individual privacy of males and females in privacy spaces, a governmental entity, including schools, will adopt a privacy compliance plan, which outlines that for new construction, that we will ensure the new construction includes a single occupant facility. So every one of our new builds has to have a single occupant facility. For existing buildings, we want to, the bill requires us to look at our buildings and our privacy spaces within our buildings and consider the feasibility of retrofitting or remodeling to include floor to ceiling walls and doors to create a single occupant facility or similar privacy protections, curtains, or other methods of improving individual privacy within the facility. So that's the substance of how the bill would affect schools, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Is there funding with this bill?
No.
Look at this asking price.
Unfunded mandate.
Any other questions about this?
Board, one thing I'd like to add, thanks Heidi, is we've been ahead of the curve. Heidi, Jamie Ellis, the directors of secondary and elementary have worked really closely with families and on a case by case, we walk through these processes. I feel like we do a great job on this, so there should be a whole lot of adjustment for our district on this score.
I was gonna
We've
be
been doing this for years.
We're sitting pretty good.
Yeah, we have plans in place, we're just gonna review them and make sure they're in compliance with the new law, so we're not far off.
And then how does that go out? Do we have to make it, didn't it say we needed to be aware that that was?
Yeah, the law doesn't require that we provide notice to
Yes.
the parents.
Yes.
Can we go back one slide? The law provides that we notify students so that they know what the rules are, but there isn't a requirement that we send a district
Notice or something like that?
notice or mass
Okay.
email or something like that. We just let students know, and it doesn't even say in what method or what form, but when there is a situation arises, that would seem to, as we talked about it, been the best way to notify students that this is the law, this is our policy, and this is how we're going to ensure compliance.
We will start training on this next week for secondary, and then the elementary.
Great, so if we get asked, we're compliant, we're doing, just proceed.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So much.
All right, President, you okay if I keep rolling
Keep going,
here?
yeah.
Positive happenings. One of these are going to be celebrated tonight, so I don't want to steal any thunder from one of our administrators, so I'm going to skip over that one, Board, but it's listed there for you. She'll be here tonight. But I wanted to just share with you that we've had three other big prestigious awards given to some of our teachers. One teaches at Roy High, Justin Shaw, and the other, Tiffany Ross, teaches at North Ogden Junior. They received the Utah Council of Teachers of English Teacher of the Year, high school and middle school respectively. And that's a big deal. That is a really big deal for our district. And we're going to find a way to make sure that we celebrate their accomplishment in a little bit bigger way. We've gone out to the schools and congratulated them. And then another one of our own, Carolyn Sandstrom, has been given the Lifetime Achievement Award for Utah Foreign Language from the Utah Foreign Language Association. Another really big prestigious award. So I just wanted to illustrate, and you already know this, that we just feel like we have the best teachers in the world, best educators in the world in Weaver School District. Congratulations to those individuals. One last thing, and then we'll get back to some presentations from departments and updates. As you know, we are in the strategic planning season, and with our March 1st special board study session, we would love it if you would come prepared to that to speak to some ideas that you have for our students, for our employees. We'd like to create what's called a board imperative or a vision statement that we can include in that strategic plan. You can shoot me your ideas through an email. You can pass them along as you're having those ideas, but I've given you kind of two guiding questions there. What are the hopes, aspirations, and dreams our board has for young people? Or what skills and mindsets do you feel as a board our young people need to be successful in their future? So if you could reflect on that. I know this is a student-centered board through and through. We would love to put a statement together, a draft statement together that speaks to what your vision is for the district on that score. Okay, any ideas or comments you want to share today, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Yes, Jen.
I'm excited about these questions. I think that they're critical, and I have reached out to educators in my area, parents, community members. I said, we're working on this. Do you have ideas or input? So I'm looking forward to receiving some feedback from them.
Bring that
I'll love
feedback. Bring that feedback. That's
Thank
great,
you.
Jen. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, President, that's all I have for my portion.
May I have one more comment? and perhaps somebody in the room will have even more of this. The information, I'm kind of uninformed, but I was so excited this past was about a week ago, to attend the state cheer competition. Amazing. And we had 3 schools, 2 that participated in 5A
Right,
and 1 that participated in 6A.
right.
And to achieve that, they have to have achieved 70% of the score
Yeah.
of what they could do to even get at the state cheer.
Absolutely. Janice, that with cheer being newly sanctioned by Utah High School, that's a big deal to have 3 schools reach that level. I appreciate that. We'll celebrate those programs
That'll be
specifically.
excellent,
Yeah.
because they were amazing, just amazing achievement, and you know the work that's gone into it.
Did you want to take up your pom-poms?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thanks Janice. Let's go to some updates from our departments. Candace Parr, Child Nutrition, please. Oh, excuse me, Dax, too short, please.
That's a joint effort. Thanks for having us. We have on the consent calendar later today a request for child nutrition at Weber School District to join UCare. It's a co-op between 20 different districts throughout the state. It's been in place since 1998, and what they do is they pull together their collective buying power to buy products at a better rate. The reason for this is when I first started 1.5 years ago, there were several issues that were brought to my attention. One of them was our contracted warehouse does not do a great job. They lose our product. We actually don't have a contract with them because they won't agree to our terms and conditions. They provide damaged products. There's lots of issues there, and we're paying storage fees for that, for those kind of issues that we're dealing with. The other issue is our...
Is that the cold storage people?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And they're great people. I'm not saying they're not great people, but there are issues that we're dealing with. The other part is our budget. We are a self-sustaining program, meaning we don't ask for funds. If we don't have to, we don't ask for funds from the district. This is something that we do on our own. With COVID, we were able to reap all the benefits of the federal funding that was provided by providing meals for free. However, as we know, that's now gone, and we are looking very deeply at our budget to see where we can cut costs. We do pay 60% of the warehouse salary, and by going through this co-op, we would no longer need to use our own district warehouse. We would go directly through this co-op to purchase our food and have it delivered directly to our schools. So that would save our costs as well. Another added benefit is I know that storage is prime real estate right now for our district, especially with the new schools opening. If we no longer need that warehouse space, that could be utilized for maintenance or custodial or anything with facilities or tech. To use that storage space because we would no longer need it. And there's other benefits to that, but those are the main ones that have popped out. So we just ask that we be able to join this co-op starting school year 24-25. Any questions?
I think what you're doing is great. Personal knowledge from my industry, we've had challenges with that same group of people. That's why I'm aware of what's going on, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good job.
President, they've done a great job with this, but in that legislative audit we had as Superintendent Butters was taking over, one of the suggestions was that our food costs were high compared to other like-sized districts, and so we're responding to that too. And food is the #1 expense for child nutrition. It's bigger than compensation. And so if we can lower that food cost, then it does a lot of good things.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks. Awesome job.
Thank you so much.
Our potential pilot of A&D block schedule. Mr. Brock Mitchell, please.
Good evening, board. So we have spent some time looking into the potential of piloting an AV block schedule at a couple of our junior highs. Over the last month, we've spent some time talking with employees, getting some feedback to better inform the recommendation and ultimately the decisions that are made around that potential change. I wanted to review some of the feedback directly from the employees. This is all directed from them, giving us at least some guidance on a direction that we want to continue to either look at it or pivot and go a different direction. We sent out a survey to Rocky Mountain Junior High. We're looking for Rocky Mountain Junior High, potentially Mountain View Junior High. Obviously, Mountain View currently does not have employees that are working there, so the focus was with Rocky Mountain Junior High. And a handful of those employees will be moving to Mountain View as well. So they had that opportunity to share their concerns or positive feelings around those. There were 4 questions that went out. The first were, what benefits do they see as part of this move? What concerns would there be? What trainings would they like to see around it? And then ultimately, would they support this pilot? I want to go through each of those to give you an idea of some of the things that are being talked about by the teachers. The first is looking at the benefits. They talked a lot about the longer classes and the opportunities to get deeper into the curriculum and the explorations that can be done. Right now in some of our CTE classes, our science classes, they don't get to do the full labs that they're able to because of the time constraint that's put on those classes. So the ability to have some setup time, some cleanup time, but then a full lab experience is one of those areas that they've talked about. The opportunity to get sitting and working with students on their homework in class rather than sending them home and not having a resource immediately available is something that the teachers thought would be a benefit. Being able to be right there with those kids when they have those questions and have a support with them. And then being able to support students who have higher needs, looking at like a math student who struggles, we could block them so that their math happens every day for that extended period of time to try and close some of those struggling students' gaps, whether it be math, English, some of those areas that we've seen in our test scores that need some additional supports. They've talked about the longer prep times, the ability for teachers to have more opportunities to collaborate and spend time preparing and grading and not having to take as much work home and being able to do it on campus during the day. The engagement opportunities that students will have, and this also is one that showed up on the concerns, is the ability for students to remain engaged for that amount of time. And that is one of those training pieces that as we got into the training questions, they wanted better understanding of what does it look like to go from a 47-minute class period to a 75-minute class period. Understanding where to take breaks and what kind of breaks help those students remain engaged, and ultimately help our teachers better structure their classroom time with transitions and modifications of the lessons. So that one showed up across both parts of the survey. A preparation for high school. We are AB in high school, and so knowing that they're coming from an elementary with 1 teacher, we currently go to 7 teachers and then back down to 4 teachers a day. They feel like this is an opportunity for them to see what that high school experience is like and get on that path earlier. And then the ability for students to have more opportunity and more choice, to be able to have just even 1 more class each year over the course of 3 years allows those students to dive into their interests a little bit deeper. I know through our counseling and our CTE, we use the U Science, which is an interest inventory. And so to be able to target some of those student interests, our teachers felt like that was a benefit to be able to look at those and find those areas of interest to help students be successful. For some of the concerns, it focused a lot on the attention span of students. Could they maintain the attention throughout that class? What would classroom behavior look like if those teachers had them for an extra 25 to 30 minutes? What does the teacher workload look like as far as transitioning from a 45-minute class period and modifying their lessons to a 75-minute class period? You know, what kind of supports would we offer in those situations? Those are concerns that came up. And then with an AB schedule, classes being every other day, if a student misses a day, they really aren't seeing that teacher for an extended period of time. And what does it look like to help remediate those students and have those students have the opportunities to catch up on some of those missing work? So those are some of the concerns that were brought up. As far as the trainings, they just wanted to know that there's a plan in place, that it's not something we would just put on them and drop them into this situation without taking the time and putting some trainings in place. We've had some discussions with the two principals of those schools. They are committed to putting some funding aside through their TSSA or trust land plans to have some summer training, to bring those teachers in multiple times throughout the summer to talk through the process. We would target teachers who've made that transition from the junior high to the high school successfully, have them come in and share their experiences and what they've done. Part of our goal district-wide is to utilize collaboration with our teachers. And so to be able to partner up some of these teachers who've had good success just speaks to the PLC focus of our district. And then our curriculum department has jumped all in on what their summer trainings might look like as well. They want to make sure that we have those curriculum specialists in our math, in our science, in our English, in our social studies that really can delve into the depths that are necessary to make those longer classes successful and engaging. Our CTE classes, those teachers are hands-on, they get out there. Those are not the ones that typically struggle with the engagement. It's the ones where the students are more within the structure of the core content, and that's where we want to make sure that those teachers have those supports and the focus on making a better transition into those courses. So bringing all that back, obviously this is a snapshot. There were 35 responses to this. As I look through these, there was either a yes or I am more than willing to give it a shot at a ratio of about 4.5 to 1 to move forward with a pilot at those two schools. So there is support from the staff as long as there are trainings and opportunities to understand what's going to be put back onto them as educators and helping to prepare them for the transition. We over the next month want to continue to gather some of that feedback, make sure that we can have some of those conversations with teachers who have some hesitations and see really what's at the base of that. If it's something specific, we want to make sure we target that if this is the direction we look at. Obviously, to this point, no decisions have been made. We still want to make sure that we're making informed decisions throughout this process before we jump into something, because ultimately we want to prepare our educators for what's best, because that will impact the success of the students in the long run. Any questions I can answer?
Just so I understand the mechanics, A would be, say, Monday, Wednesday, and B would be Tuesday, Thursday?
Correct. And
what happens on Friday?
So A is Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Monday,
B would be
Friday.
Tuesday, Thursday, and then the next week it would just swap. So it's just an alternating every other day model. And currently that's what our high schools, our traditional high schools are doing now.
Sorry. What's the deadline on the decision-making process?
Kelly, I'll jump in if that's okay, Brock. We were hoping to bring a recommendation to the board next month, March. We've also had quite a few people reach out and say, well, do it district-wide. We would like to go district-wide. And can I just express some of our pumping the brakes on our hesitancy on that? As you know, about 3/4 of our schools right now are going through staffing changes. And we're going to have people landing in different schools based on the boundary changes and the enrollment shifts. We just feel like we need a year. If we pilot this, we need a year to really work out some of the kinks, get a good feel for what's working, what we need to do better if we were to take this more district-wide. And then we also need to let our district settle a little bit and find that equilibrium. So we would propose, board, that if with your support, we'll keep moving through this and then bring a recommendation to you next board meeting.
And the kids that are going to Mountain View, are all of those kids coming from Rocky Mountain Junior? I can't remember the proposal.
There's
The
a
majority of
handful from
Sandridge?
Walquist,
Oh, from Walquist.
and a smaller amount from Sandwich.
Okay. So those kids that are current, because I know like they start registering for classes like in the next few weeks. So those kids at those junior highs would just register like they're registering normally for 7 classes, and then
Yeah, so to make sure this is functional, if it's something we wanted to propose, they're registering right now. So we put it in place to where they would see that as an option. No matter which school they're going to, they choose a certain number of classes plus alternates. So we have enough to fill if we do end up going this way. So all of the students are picking enough
And
classes.
those
to
kids
get that.
know that this is a possibility? Because I know that my daughter says that, she's heard rumors that all this.
The rumors are out there for sure, but we have not obviously committed in any way. This is something that we've made very clear to the administration at those schools that this is in discussion. It's teetering, and it can go either direction just as easily.
So that may be where the Walquist rumors are coming from, since there's a small portion of Walquist goes through this.
Yeah.
Okay, because my daughter's like, all of Walquist is going to AB. I was like, I don't think so.
No, that's
That
not
would
it
be a
is.
suggestion that we probably ought to move a little quicker on it, Superintendent, and get that so we can stop that.
Yeah,
And if we make a decision to move forward, we at least got 2 schools that know where they're going.
Sure.
absolutely, absolutely. So March is kind of our timeline, if that's okay with you.
I'm good with that.
Thank you.
There's never any rumors. Hey, Brock, after you finish training the teachers to go from 45 minutes to 75 minutes, could you flip that and come train me, and we'll cut this meeting from 3 hours down to about 50 minutes?
We'll see what we can do about that.
I'll help you with that, Brock. We'll start tonight.
Junior high football, Mr. Matt Williams, please.
Talk about rumors.
That's always a fun discussion. So, President and Superintendent and the board, appreciate it. I wanted to just take a minute to give you an update on NAL. We met this about a week ago, Mr. Barney and myself. Dan Barney's helping with kind of facilitating NAL for the district. And those of you who know him, he's a retired school teacher, and he loves, actually retired counselor, right, Jen? And loves being a part of NAL. We spoke to Donna Elmquist, who's the current national president of the NAL. They're still not sure what they're going to do with NAL, but she's committed to providing us with all the materials so that we can run it next year. So we have a commitment that we will have NAL next year. Weber School District will have it. She's not making any commitment to anybody else. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, update you on that. So that's our plan. And that just came out, so we haven't even let the Board of Managers in the junior high even know that yet. So
I was just gonna say, so we're promising for next year, but after that is kind of to be determined.
yeah, still to be determined. And we're kind of talking with people to see what options, because it's a great thing. I would invite all of you to go to an NAL meet, I guess they call it, competition. It's fantastic. So if you got some time next fall, it's the same time as our girls volleyball. It's great. So get out there and watch it. And we will replace it with something, right? So good. Also, just letting you know, we just had our junior high basketball boys championship. Orion beat Rocky Mountain by 4. It was a great game. In the regular season, Rocky Mountain beat Orion by 1. That was their only loss. So Orion won the championship today. It was at Fremont High, very few empty seats. So I don't know what that seats, but many thousand people were there, a couple thousand people.
Well, I was just gonna say, it was a well-attended game.
Yeah, it was
And
fantastic.
Rocky was up the whole game.
Yeah, they were.
Good job.
Yeah. So it was great. Part of my point that we're doing great things for kids in the junior high. So as we have this discussion about football, there's great things going on, and we'll continue to do so. Just wanted to give you an update on the football. The survey went out. It was open for 10 days. It closed on February 5th. We had about 1,623 people take the survey. So we sent it to all junior high parents, students, and staff. And that's what we had. What we plan to do, so our plan moving forward is to reconvene the junior high football committee, talk about what we found out, and then come with a proposal for next month in March of where we go from here, right? Right now, it's about 50%, it's about 50-50 on every question we had. Yes, Mr. Ritchie.
Do you know, Matt, how many you sent to?
Yeah, I can find that out, but I would guess it's probably about 8,000.
So you take
8 to 10,000.
1,600
Yep.
return.
Right.
It's pretty good.
And we made
That's a
Again, I'm
good
looking at
sample.
numbers, I'm saying.
we made a pretty good
Small.
push at the end, and we got a couple hundred more. So we try not to do it over the weekend. We try to do it where there's a full week, so it just doesn't get hit in their mailbox for emails and stuff. So, but most of them are 50-50 right now. So I can just tell you, with decreasing numbers of participants and subsequently fewer games in our fall season, should football continue in Weber School District 50-50, right? The numbers are exactly 50% yes, 50% no. As a taxpayer, do we continue to support junior high football? 51% yes, 49% no. Due to safety concerns associated with football, should we continue to facilitate this? 50% yes, 50% no.
Wow.
And then if junior high football were replaced with another sport, we gave them 3 options: boys volleyball, boys soccer, boys golf. Boys soccer was 49%, boys volleyball was 31%, and then golf was 20%. So just some preliminary numbers for you to know about. We plan to meet this month in February, reconvene, have a discussion, and bring a proposal to you.
Great.
Any questions?
That'll make the decision easy, won't it?
Yeah, 50-50.
We'll do 50-50 here.
Yep.
President, I have a question. A member of the audience texted me and wanted me to ask Matt if the 49ers are going to win.
50-50.
No, it's the Chiefs all the way, Dr. Peterson. You know that. I don't have the Chiefs stuff on, but usually I do. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Human Resources, Nicole Mibus, please.
Okay. And no, we did not plan on color coordinating tonight.
But you've done very well.
We're kind of one. We can have
Figured that was
Emily
the
and
HR
Heather
uniform.
join us too. The black and white memo, so. So thank you, board, for letting us present to you tonight. We just want to talk a little bit about, we've done a couple of requests for proposals, an RFP. That was something that was new for me coming into this role, and Laurie's been through it a few times, and we've been busy with a couple of them. So we want to make you aware of what those are. We've done 2 of those. One is for a benefits consultant and one for our staffing agency. And just talk a little bit about why an RFP. It's a way to ensure that cronyism is removed as a factor in rewarding of the contracts. It opens it up to competition to try to help to negotiate the cost lower. And then the Utah code also requires it, so kind of have to. And then we are stewards of public funds, and we want to be using them responsibly. So that's why we conduct the RFPs. And then why the benefits consultant? So we had a committee. Laurie was the facilitator of that committee. We also had board member Larson that was part of that committee as well. And why our benefits consultant is because we needed to have a liaison between the district and the district's insurance providers. An underwriting team analyzes utilization reports for the district, and based on this data, they are able to negotiate insurance rates for the district. So the reason why we're doing that now is we currently have our broker is GBS. The district, Weber School District, has been with GBS for 20 years. And it's been 7 years since the last RFP, so it was time to go through that process again to make sure that GBS and that we are just being, again, stewards of funds and making sure that we're getting what we need for the best price. The other RFP that we have been conducting is I have been facilitating that one, and we've included our directors from elementary, secondary, and special education, as well as Assistant Superintendent Clyde Moore. And just to kind of talk a little bit about the why behind a staffing agency. Something that we've struggled with in the district has been filling our substitute needs around teachers and paraprofessionals in particular. A staffing agency is beneficial to the district because they can offer benefits. That's something that we've heard back from, it's really competitive for substitutes with our surrounding districts, and you look at pay and different things that you can offer as a district. And benefits just keeps coming back to something that could be appealing to someone that wants to come in and substitute. And we can't offer that as a district, but a staffing agency is able to do that. If we did that as a district, it would be the cost would be very high for us. They also offer a robust training and support, so they're very targeted and specific in their recruiting efforts and how to support those employees. They would become employees of the staffing agency, not of Weber School District. They have incentives like referral programs and drawings, so they have ways to incentivize through some financial means. Fill rates, that's one of the biggest things that a staffing agency could help us with. I've heard from lots of different educators, I've heard from our directors around our schools really struggling with being able to have enough substitutes in the schools. And as you can imagine how stressful that can be for the school and for teachers. And recently coming from a school as a principal, it kind of just becomes this vicious cycle where your teachers and educators and staff want to take time off. There's no one to cover, they're relying on each other. Then they earn comp time, and then they want to take that time off, and then somebody else has to cover. So it just becomes an exhausting effort for educators and paraprofessionals to be able to take time off from work. So our fill rates is, as I said, was a great benefit of a staffing agency because they have a higher fill rate. Our current fill rates in the district is about 75%, and that's data that we've collected from August to February of this year, August 23 to 24 of this year. Title I schools and others have been as low as 36%. So some of the data has shown us that some schools can be as high as I've seen up to 100%, and other schools have been down around 36%. And I'm sure you can imagine the stress that causes on the schools that just can't seem to draw those substitutes. A staffing agency their fill rates are as high as 97%, and it's because they're so specific and targeted that's what they do. They actually even go out into the communities of those schools and go to different events to draw substitutes into those specific communities. So that's another great benefit. And then they will continue with an ASOP, with our ASOP system. That's what we currently use in the district. So there would be minimal to no disruption in our schools. They really wouldn't feel the difference other than they have more subs. I won't bore you with all of the data there, but we are collecting data on what that looks like for all of our employee groups that require substitutes over a period of time, just so that we have a good pulse on what's going on. And then our timeline, our RFP for the benefits consultants began in November of 23. There's been multiple committee meetings. The presentations were conducted on January 18th. We did a second round of interviews on January 25th, and then the evaluation committee will make a recommendation to the board by March 1st. So we're hopefully kind of getting to that point where we're able to make a decision and move forward there. The RFP for the staffing agency opened in December of 23. The committee has met. We have watched those presentations from the staffing agencies, and we'll meet again before February 15th to make a decision, and then have again a recommendation to the board by March 1st. So, any questions that you have around either RFP? Brought Laurie for the insurance one.
Sorry. So we haven't used a staffing agency in the past, so people who just want to be subs just go on the job board, and so it's mainly people are coming to us as opposed to somebody reaching out and recruiting. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
And then my other question is on, because I have a lot of friends who sub in the district, and a lot of them, they'll sub at their kid's school, and so then the secretary calls them and says, they don't get all the phone calls from all the schools. Is that still how it will work with the staffing agency?
Yeah, they are very open to, yes. They are very open to any suggestions and working with us as a district and whoever we select to kind of customize how we would like that to be done.
Nicole, can you tell us what other districts around us that actually use a staffing agency?
Yes, Ogden, Box Elder, Salt Lake, Provo, Alpine, Washington County, Nebo. So there are many, many districts that are using a staffing agency in the state.
Thank you.
So they vet everything, of course, which also takes it out of our hands. So we have to worry about background, we don't have to worry about any of that down. When they're coming in,
that's correct.
It's great. I think it's a great recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I just wanted to say real quick, I'm sure the staffing agency committee was just as robust, but the insurance benefits, consultants, it was a lot of work. And so I just want to thank Lori and Nicole for all that and everybody who participated in our benefit. Robert was also on the committee. But yeah, it was very thorough. They did a really great job, so thank you.
I just want to make one more comment on the staffing. In the past, there's a cost to go into the staff. And so we have been hesitant to do it, but I believe the benefits outweigh the costs. It's good for kids. We get quality individuals in there, and it frees up us to do things that are left undone, because it's a big burden by every school and HR and others to get those subs in there. I think it's the good direction to go.
Thank you.
Thanks. Legal, Heidi Oliver, please.
Okay, we'll go fast. Yeah. We have 3 policies that are being presented on second reading, and actually we're just going to do 2 because we had, well, I'll just go through the ones that we have here in order in your agenda. The first one is policy 3250, the donations and gifts. And since our last reading, we did make one adjustment. It was raised at the last board meeting. A concern was raised about the very last section that didn't really seem to fit into a policy about donations and policies. If you turn to page 4 and 5, you can see all of the section crossed out because that section is all about naming facilities and mascots. And the only piece that really pertained to donations was that a donation should not entitle a donor to have a facility named after him or her or them. So we are putting the naming of facilities and naming or renaming mascots in a separate policy that will be brought to you at some point in the future. The second policy that we had for second reading is our student overnight travel policy, policy 4600, which has been in the works for quite some time. We had a lot of stakeholder input, and at the very last minute, we had one additional stakeholder provide some comments and concerns that we felt like we needed to take a look at. This was a teacher advisor who had some questions about something in here, and we think we can simply address the questions and concerns by making a couple of substantive changes. But because they are substantive changes and not just formats, we wanted to make sure that it is available for the public to see again and for you all to see before adopting it on second reading. So we will bring that back on March meeting.
Do we just want to go over that really quick?
Sure.
It was in, I don't remember which section it is, but it talked about advisors using their personal funds for non-educational activities. But the concern was brought up, like, I'll give the example, my daughter went to ICDC in Atlanta a couple years ago, and as with Weber, the advisors took all the students to Six Flags. And so if the advisors are taking all the students to Six Flags, then the advisor perhaps shouldn't have to pay for Six Flags out of their pocket. But if the advisors want to do something that doesn't involve chaperoning students, then that's on their own. So we just need to make a revision there.
Yeah, and Board Member Larson, I haven't had a chance to reach back out to you because I've been in meetings all day, but Director Belknap over CTE, who is over a lot of these organizations that travel frequently, raised the possibility of maybe having the request for the overnight travel include the itinerary with activities that they want to do, and those activities that are approved by the district would be covered by the district in terms of cost for the advisor. And then anything that's not covered by the district per the travel committee's approval would not be, any district advisor would not be able to submit a reimbursement for something that they decided at the last minute to go and do.
We still want advisors to feel like they have to, if they're chaperoning a student in an activity, that they're required to pay for that.
Right. So we'll table that and come back to it next month on a second reading. The other policy that we had on the second reading was a policy, oh, I apologize, we only had two policies on the second reading? With that one.
Social media.
Social media.
Social media.
8340.
Social media, thank you. My papers are all mixed up. Heather is an amazing compliance officer and policy person. She helps me stay organized, and so this is entirely my fault. But the social media policy, we did have just one minor adjustment since the last reading, and our IT folks let us know that if an employee does want to create a social media page, then they just want to be able to work with them and have that align with our website. So that's the only change that was made to that policy. And then we have 3 policies that are being presented on a first read for tonight. Policy 1110, which is board members' eligibility and qualifications. The policy was initially simply reformatted. Our paralegal was asked to take a look at the policy. It hadn't been touched in about 50 years. And so we reformatted it to look like the other policies, and we wouldn't even need to bring it to the board if we didn't also make some substantive additions and changes. So I want to draw your attention to that. On page, the second to last page is a couple highlighted sections. Roman numeral 6 says school board vacancy. Per state law, if there's a vacancy on the school board, then the school board makes the appointment after a member of the public, a candidate, submits an application. And as you may or may not know, interviews to be a member of the board must be done in public, but the law is silent with regard to how the board makes that decision. And so the policy committee determined to add on letter B, numbers 4 and 5, that the board member may appoint the candidate at the same meeting as the interview is held, or may make the appointment at a subsequent meeting, and that the appointment will be done by closed ballot. And we'll put that to you if the board, the members of the board who are on our policy committee felt like that would be in the best interest of the board, but that's something obviously for the board to decide. So between now and next month, please let me know if you have any concerns about that. The only other addition to that policy is a section in the very end, Roman numeral 7, that talks about removal from office. At what point can a board member be removed? Because board members are elected positions, removal is not something that is done lightly, but if a board member is convicted of a felony, or if a board member moves out of the area, the precinct that they are representing, then that ought to be the basis for a removal. But other than that, the policy committee felt that it's best to leave that up to the voters. Any question or comments about that policy?
Under that, I'm sorry, Heidi, under A2 though, where the board member no longer maintains a primary residency in the precinct they represent, should that potentially not have a time frame? Because what if they moved out but they're looking to come back in?
That's a good point.
Temporary housing. So you say is there 30 days or 60 days or 7 years or 22 for my this spot?
22 years. That's a great point. We can certainly add a time limit to that section, that if the board member moves out and doesn't move back in within X number of months or a year, then that will be a basis for removal. So we'll get back with our policy committee before this comes back to the board for second reading. You can let me know directly, or board member Burrell or board member Larson with specific language, and we can add that.
I have one more question. On the qualifications, where it says you need to be a resident for 1 year before, and then 1 year preceding the date of election, is that in statute?
It is, okay. Yeah. The rest of everything is in statute. The next policy up for on first reading is policy 2340. This was brought to us by our transportation department that had some concerns about students riding the buses where there is not availability to ride the buses. And so on the very last page where it says letter D, we made the change that available space on a bus means 80% of the seats available for students who are assigned to the bus. And once a bus is full to 80% capacity, then it's closed. But if it does not have 80% capacity, then students who are not on that route can apply to ride the bus if they're within distance to get themselves to the bus stop. We also added that any applications from students outside of that regular route would need to be submitted to the district by September 15th, and that if at some point throughout the year students who are eligible to ride the bus decide to ride the bus, then they have priority over those who are not eligible to ride. And then the last policy that is being presented on first reading is policy 4190, the concussion and traumatic head injury policy. This is a policy that's required by law that we have, and everything that's in this policy in blue is statutory. There was very little discretionary discussion. We went back and forth actually and tried to make some adjustments in terms of what we felt like was fair practice, but ultimately the policy committee determined after talking to stakeholders that it would be best to strictly comply with what the law says, and I concurred. 4,500. Oh, that's 4190.
So we got 44, yes.
And I'll make that fast, because I know you're 30 seconds. Watch this. 4,500 is our extracurricular activity policy.
It's all red.
That policy was a one-paragraph policy, but we determined that we wanted to put into our policy book the eligibility requirements that UHSAA has in place. And so everything in pink in there is actually taken right from the UHSAA bylaws. So it's nothing that the policy committee created in terms of, again, discretionary decision-making, stakeholders' input. This is all UHSAA bylaws, but it outlines eligibility criteria as well as eligibility for private school, charter school, and online school students to participate in extracurricular activities in our district.
You are so good.
Good job.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Did we put a link in there to the handbook?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. Dr. Peterson, can we hold on that last part until later? Okay, wonderful. Well, let's take just a quick break for a minute and we'll get started on our next board meeting.